There are words. Oh yes. Oh, everybody's a bit weak this morning, aren't we? Oh, I bet I'm kind of too forceful, am I? John, it's John, and it's 17, and it is just verses that we've read before, but it just struck me, how plain and straight it is Jesus' explanation. John 17, and just a few of them really encapsulates it. It's John 17, and well, that helps me, Trish, when you thought it was very soft too. Yeah, it helps me when I see you thought it was very soft, the singing. But John 17, and Jesus, says, verse 20, I do not pray for these only. So one of these holy prayers, that he prays to his Father, kind of almost private prayers. I do not pray for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, even as thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be in us, so that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. The glory which thou hast given me, I have given to them, that they may be one even as we are one. I in them, and thou in me, that they may become perfectly one, so that the world may know that thou hast sent me, and hast loved them even as thou hast loved me. Father, I desire that they also, whom thou hast given me, may be with me where I am, to behold my glory which thou hast given me in thy love for me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, the world has not known thee, but I have known thee. And these I know that thou hast sent me, and these know that thou hast sent me. I made known to them thy name, and I will make it known, that the love with which thou hast loved me may be in them, and I in them. And we've shared before, how in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and that the Word is God speaking, God expressing himself. And old Bart says that's one of the most remarkable things we have to notice about God, that he was willing to express himself. And I thought, well, what would he have done? And of course, obviously, God could have kept himself utterly to himself, or could have simply shown us a part of himself, but not shown him all of himself. And so God's word, the important thing about it is not that it's written, but that it is living and alive. It is him expressing himself to us in ways that we can understand. So it's Jesus, the word became flesh, something that we could understand. Nose like us, mouth like ours, teeth like ours, words like ours, ideas like ours. So God became something that we could understand. And we've already shared together how really it's the birth of Jesus into the world that is the beginning of God speaking directly to the word. And how he did it through Jesus in his physical body as Jesus of Nazareth. And then Jesus went back to his Father, and his Spirit remained here on earth and lived his life through the apostles. And so we are actually the continuation of the Word made flesh. We're the continuation of Jesus. And this prayer, of course, states it so clearly. And it's just, I'll tell you how I misunderstood it for years. But if you look at it, it's 20. I do not pray for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, that they may all be one. And then it goes on, that the world therefore may believe, so that the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And of course, Irene might remember part of it, I don't know. But the Methodists were part of the ecumeniacs, we used to call ourselves eventually, But we were part of the ecumenical movement, We were going to join with those miserable Catholics, and we were going to join with the miserable Lutherans and the miserable Presbyterians. And everybody was suddenly, according to us, that was going to be fulfilled. You see, God said they would believe in us. So we thought, I'll get them all together. Actually, I'll tell you a secret. The secret was we thought they'd start believing and coming to church more because there were more of us. And so maybe the strength of our right arm would eventually make the church count in the society. And so we were, for years anyway, I certainly interpreted it as ecumenicism, where Jesus was praying that they may all be one, even as we are one. And I missed totally the important part, that they may be one and that they may be in me and I in them, even as thou, Father, art in me and I in you, that they would be in us. And it's only been years and years later that I've seen what Jesus is saying, that the world will only believe in his Father when it sees him alive. With our miserable hands and feet and faces, my miserable words. I'm horrified and ashamed so often. My wife catches it, but you probably have put up with it at times. I know I do some things right, but certainly do a lot of things wrong. And it seems to me that it's the Saviour's will to live in each one of you and in me in such a way that people will recognize him and will be touched by him. I thought earlier, when I was in the middle of the rowing, I thought, we're all probably about 100 pounds of self, and we're lucky if we get maybe 40 pounds of Jesus. Very lucky, But we're so full of ourselves, and so used to our own ways of doing things and losing ourselves, me especially, in conversation. And it is so off-putting, And of course, I thank God for all of you, and especially for my own dear girl, for putting up with me. And I'm sure you do the same. I'm sure I'm not the only one. But certainly, when you pause for a moment, you can see how full of ourselves we are. And of course, we all have good excuses because we were brought up that way, even with our good mums and dads. We were brought up as if we were the important people, and as if, of course, this is your life. You have to make of it as much as you can, and that's your job, and you be yourself, And so we have been ourselves, And who questions that they have a right to their own way? We're not brought up. We're brought up, there's a little bit of, now, let him have his toy, Ernest, or let him have his toy, Trish. Yeah, but it's really a concession you make, to the miserable creature. Your right is to your own toys and your own space. Give me my space, Greg remembers well his comment, which I don't blame him at all. He was running around here helter-skelter, after every switch that broke, and he said, I want to have a life, and dear love him, I thought it was funny, because that hasn't been his spirit at all. He's been the servant of all, by all means, all the time. But I think we're brought up to feel that. Somebody owes us something, and the world owes us something, and it's our right to have that something. And that's found in our tone of our voices, in our words to one another, in our actions. And of course, there's one dear man, that is saying, kind of tapping us on the shoulder. Could I speak? Could I have a word here? We, in a way, so often we ignore him, except when it's prayer time, and then we give him lots of attention. But when we get back to real life, we don't bother too much with him. And yet that seems to be exactly what Jesus is saying. He's praying his Father that he will be in his Father and his Father will be in him, and that he himself will be in us. And then wonder of wonders, that we will be in him. That we will be in him. That he will be surrounding us every second of the day, protecting us, bearing the burdens and the hurts and the harms and the difficulties. That he will be protecting us, and we'll be in him, and we'll be preoccupied with him and enjoying him. I think I've said it once to you before. I don't think I've ever had an out-of-body experience, whatever that is. But I did an odd time when I was a boy, in summertime, look at somebody else and think, wouldn't it be funny just to be in them and not in me? And to kind of feel a little separation from myself. And sometimes you glimpse that, Wouldn't it be fun to live above yourself and to be separated from yourself? But we're so used to thinking of ourselves and as the limits of our own existence. And yet Jesus is the one who is in us, and that's why we're here. The other one is so dead obvious. Can you imagine another Jesus like Marty Overby? And see, there isn't. Yeah, he may wish there was. I may wish there was another Ernest O'Neill, but there isn't. There is not another Jesus like you, like each one of you. You are the only version of Jesus that exists, just like you. And that is a great privilege. That's wonderful. And that undoubtedly is why from the earliest days we talked about being born again and having a new life, because that's what it meant. It meant the old life being done away with and Jesus living here with your name. And what you were giving to him was your name. And even the old people years ago knew that, because they said, oh yeah, that's your Christian name, isn't it? That's not your real name. Your real name is something else. But this is your Christian name. And that was because you became Christ then. You and the old people's, the old church's view, became a new existence of Jesus here on earth. So it's a great privilege we have. And I would suggest that in preparation for communion now, that we just spend time in prayer. You can pray aloud if you want, do whatever you want, but most importantly, ask Jesus to give you light, and to give me light, and each other light, as to any ways in which we are assuming something to ourselves, any attitudes we have that are not real and are not his, any ways in which we're ignoring him, so that he may give us light. Let us pray.